So it sounds to me, Jenny, that you're saying you like a lot of communication with your R2 especially. And a lot of that communication happens at the beginning also. So you would tell them, as an official, do you like them to come up to you and say, okay, how can I make your job easier? Or do you like an official come up to you and say, this is what I want from you? What do you prefer?
I would prefer to not take the official out of their game. So if they're the type that is a take charge, I'm going to do it all type of thing, then I'm just going to roll with it. I may not like it, but I'm going to roll with it because I'm not going to take them out of their game. I just have to write down what happens. I don't have to decide anything, type of thing. But most of the time, everybody wants to work as a team. The lines people, the R1, the R2, the scorekeeper, the libero tracker, the clock operator. We all want to work as a team. So, if you ask me, do you want me to say your numbers? Well, at the beginning of the season, I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead. Why don't you do it for the first rotation? And then after that, if we do it, great. And if we don't, it's okay. Or I might have to tell you, Tina, I didn't get that number. Do you still have that number? Because you will have it in your head as the R2 because you had to go put them in the lineup. So I haven't really had too much of a problem except for the people that stand right in my way. And they'll stand right in their way and they go, you got that? And I was like, nope, don't got that. So it's a team effort. And realize as the scorekeeper, you're not going to tell them about touches or ball handling or anything else. You are there as a scorekeeper. And I have to remind myself of that constantly. So.
And all scorekeepers are different. Like Jenny, she likes to, kind of go and work with you. You may have scorekeepers that like things a certain way. So the biggest thing that is so important is that as you are the R2, you're in charge of the table. So you need to communicate with that table, find out where you can find that great working, conditions and being able to help each other out. Jenny says, if you can just move out of the line of sight for subs, then in your mind, just kind of scoot over just a little bit to help their job be easier. But at the very beginning is where you have this communication. And then if something happens during a match, then your scorekeeper is going to trust you because you've had that communication. You've had this bond that you're starting to build. And so they can look at you and say, okay, they need a lineup check, or where are we wrong? And they can just turn and look, we're right here, and okay, and it works out really good. So I think building a relationship in the beginning is vitally important. So are there any other questions so far about the score sheet or a lineup sheet that you would look at to put onto the score sheet before we look at tracking?
One other thing I might add, if you don't mind, is that if we were, before they served this last point, if the R2 will come over and wanted to ask who my front row on Sammamish was, you would tell them that it's 30, 21, and 27 captain are your front row. So as a referee, you can do that. They can ask, so remember that it's the next three are your front row. This is your back row, and these are your front row.
That's
Joe, can I just jump in there? There are two things that I wanted to mention, and Jenny, you just kind of touched on it. I think it's really important that, like you say, we understand what the scorekeeper wants, but sometimes we need to also let them know how they can help us. And one of those is just exactly what you said. And so I always tell my scorekeeper, I might turn around and ask you for who's my next server, or who's the front row. And they look at me kind of like, what? And so I just take an extra moment to explain to them, it's a lot easier for them to be prepared if they know ahead of time that you might ask that. The other thing that I also do, because so many times we're often dealing with inexperienced scorekeepers. I might be doing a C match alone or whatever it is. And so the one thing I do if I'm the down ref is that I tell my scorekeeper, after you have, during a timeout, and after you have completed your necessary work, I want you to point to the points on the score sheet. not in the running total, but on the score sheet. And so what I do is I turn around and I take a look at the points that they are pointing to, and then I go to the running score to see if it's correctly written down. And then that takes my eyes down to the timeouts to make sure the score is properly recorded in the proper place. And I just find that's just a mechanic I've always used. I just feel very comfortable in doing that. So there's sometimes techniques that you might develop that's going to help you manage your match. And I don't think you should feel bad or shy about doing that.
There are referees who want to know, yes, okay, here's 14 in red, here's 14 in red, here's 25, or here's 24 in red, here's 24 in red. We have 2 blue timeouts, TX. You'll find scorekeepers that don't put the T or the TX for the timeouts because it's redundant. The score is this point at only 1 point in the game, but it still is in the instructions. So that's why we're doing it. So if they say, why do you do that? You tell them because it's in the instructions.
A couple things that before we move on that I took some notes on just to help with you as new officials. If you go to the lower levels, our Federal Way schools that we do service, they have a rule that they, at the last set, at a certain point, they sub everyone in and everyone comes out. So that takes a big process. So be patient, do it like you're supposed to. Have, you know, one set of sub in the sub zone, and then you move them in, and then you move the other one in, and you just keep going. Be patient with the score because they're marking everybody out, marking everybody in, and then just take a few moments and make sure they're all in the right lineup. That will save a bunch of headaches further on in that set. So keep in mind, we're trying to help our scorers do their job as much as they're trying to help us do that. This year, remember, always bring your own pencils and pens. Just because of the COVID thing, just bring your own. And when you have a new score, we aren't always fortunate to have great scorers at our school. Some we are, some we aren't. But if we don't, and somebody sits down and says, I've never done this before, your job at that moment is to do a quick train, be as simple and simplistic that is going to help them and you get through this match. If it means that they don't record the sub in the line, but they put it in the player's number spot, okay, as long as we know who's in the game. Maybe the next time we start adding more things because we need them to still record some of it for us. At the end of that night, if you've had a struggling with this official, then you contact Mark. Say, Mark, I was at this school. Their score was never done it before, never been trained. This is what happened. And then Mark can contact the AD and talk to them about it. But we don't want to penalize the players and the girls because the administration or whatever didn't do their part. We still want to play. So we're going to try to make it as easy as possible to help get them on that court and to play. If there's issues, contact Mark. I know at some schools, like a C team or even a 6th grade team, if there was no score, we just do a running tally. We're on the honor system with tracker, we're on the honor system with subs, and we just want them to play because the score was too much of a hassle to try to get them to do their job. You contact Mark afterwards. Let him know what happened at the school. Let him know that there was this that happened. We just went with a running tally on the honor system and you let the girls play. Right, Mark?
I think that is absolutely so important. If you're going to know within the first half of a set if this is going to be a long night or not. And if they don't know how to keep score, exactly what Tina said, go over, take a timeout, call the coaches over and just say, look, the scorekeeper is holding things back. We need to keep things moving. So we're not going to keep a tally. We're just going to do what Tina said, running score, Libros, substitutes, honor system, subs on the fly, and just keep moving things. It's fair for both teams. It's a C level, maybe JV level. Don't apologize for it. Don't let them talk you out of it. You're in charge and you just need to get through. So good points.
And then the last thing that I love that Jenny brought up was the timeouts. Make sure that we tell them how many they've taken, not how many they have left. Coaches will ask, how many do I have left? Coach, you've taken 1. Coach, you haven't taken any. It's how many they've taken. So remember that when a coach is asking you about the timeout. So it's how many they've taken. So always remember that part. Are there any other? Oh, yes.
I was going to say the scoreboard will have TOL for timeouts left. We don't care. We're doing timeouts taken.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions about the score sheet? And then I'm going to let Jenny go into tracking. Any questions? All right, Jenny, you want to do tracking just a bit?
Yeah. A couple things I love tape. Wall safe tape is my best friend. Okay, we'll just fold this over. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is what the Libro tracking sheet looks like when and this is what it looks like once it's filled out. It's very busy. This is an old one. If you have an old one, you can still keep track of the service order with those little check marks. But you want one that has this column, this S and SP. Let's see. Oh, here's one. It's a college one, but that's all right. You want this one with this as a service and then the SP, okay? It was weird. They put on the coach's site the correct ones, but not on the official site. So when you go to download them, be careful. Make sure if you download yours for your stuff, you download this one. Okay, it's the same thing with the lineup sheets, where you take the lineup for this one's Juanita, and you put it in the same way. There's not a place for serve or server side for first serve on here because we really don't care. The Libro tracker, it's not germane to their duty. It is germane to them is, if I look on the score sheet, 6 and 2. Okay. So at the beginning of the game, when the referee lines everybody up out there and she tells the Libro that she can go in, oh, look, the Libro went in for 27 captain. What do you suppose we ought to do? We should probably ask the R1 or tell the R1 that was the captain you just waved at. So they need to designate another captain while she's not in the game. So we'll go ahead and make that number 21 right there, okay? Because sometimes that happens and we don't know that until the Libero goes in and everybody's ready to play and we're going, wait a minute, where'd the captain go? So that's there. And this Libero went in here in 6, okay? 5. You notice they didn't count very well here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. The things you notice later. Anyway, so Juanita serves first in this first set, right? So when 38 goes back to serve, we just put a little tick mark there. That's all we do, okay? That's all we have to do. Okay, so then she sides out and we put a tick mark over here when 43 serves. When 40 goes back to serve, they can serve 6 or 7 times, but we're only gonna put that one. It's when they rotate into that position. That's where we wanna know where it is, because that way we know who our back row is. So when 40 goes to serve, oh, wait a minute, they subbed over here, and now 41's in here. And so we're going to put 41 in the game. So we know that on Samamish's side, our right back is number 41. Our front row is 35, 30, 21, acting as captain. Libero is left back, and 11 is center back. Okay, we just went around in circles. But that's who's in the game at the time. So when they ask for a lineup check, sometimes they'll ask for the score sheet. Sometimes they'll ask for the Libro. The Libro sheet might be better for you if you have somebody with good penmanship and that type of stuff, because you'll know where the Libro is, who they're going in for, okay? So might be easier. The scorekeeper can probably tell you that the Libro is in for number 27, but when you're asking for a lineup check, that's what the R2 is going to look for. So we're going to pretend that there's more subs going on in here. So the Libero is in for 27 and in for theirs. So when number 3 goes back to serve, okay, she serves, 35 serves. We come over here. Number 23 is going to go back to serve. 34 is now going to be in the front row. We need 34 to come back in. Okay. That is the whole job of the Libero, is to make sure that 34 comes back in. Okay. Now 23 is going back to serve, but 23 is 6'10" and she's not very good at bending over to pass the ball. So they may sub number 2 in for her. That's fine, go for it. Okay, so number 2 serves and she biffs it in the net. And so then you're going to see this happen very fast. Number 23 is going to go back in because they can. You're going to sub 23 back in, and then the Libero is going to come in for 23 right after that. Okay. So we sub 2 for 23, then we sub 23 for 2, and the Libero is in for 23. That happens pretty quick. So you'll see that the Libero and 23 are running it to the court at the same time. Number 2 is trying to run off. So make sure you as the R2 are dealing with that. Okay. So now we know that the Libero did not serve there because number 2 did. We don't know that yet, but we would have put a triangle there, right? So did the triangle serve on that one? Okay, fine. Okay. So don't look at your score sheet. We're just using these same ones. Okay, so let's see. When 35 served over here, 27 must have come back in, right? I need to pay attention to this. I apologize for this. Because the Libero served for number 35. And that's how we know that. We put the triangle there, okay? 27 captain came back in, 21 is no longer the captain. Sorry if I confused you on that, but if we keep track of where the Libero is and go back 3, that's where things have to happen, okay? So then 23 serves, 30 serves, 32 comes over here, 30, all right, we come over here. Now, the Libero is going to serve for 34. We have to come back over here, 27. The Libero is going to come in, 27 is going to serve, then the Libero comes in for her. We come over here, and the Libero is going to serve. Now, the Libero didn't serve before, so that's fine. She serves now. We put a triangle there. And the Libero is in, and we make sure that 23 comes back in. Sometimes you might see that number 2 wants to come back in. I said, no, we need number 23 to come back in. Okay. If we go through this again, here, we'll use this game down here for the other scenario. 23, 32, 27. So if we had number 2 come in here to serve, and then the Libero came in for 2. They didn't do that sub for 23 yet. Then when they get to the front row, when this gal comes back in, when the Libero is going to go back to serve here, we have to make sure that 2 comes back, and then they can sub 23 for 2. So both of these girls are going to come from the bench area. Okay, that's going to be really odd looking, but it happens a lot. So it isn't that 23 came in for 34. The libero is in for 34. Sub 23 for 2. 23 for 2. Okay, we probably have to have questions on this part. You guys have any questions on this part?
I think
This
a lot
is-
of what Jenny is talking about too, with their potentials of the wrong player coming in, is oftentimes you'll see it with the middle who forgot that she was supposed to go in, or she's the sub, and she actually didn't start it. So the original middle will start, and then the coach is like, oh, I'm going to sub in. And then there's always a mix up sometimes with that certain middle. Seen it many times. The other thing that you can do as an R2 is you can actually, if you see players are getting confused, watch who's going in, watch who goes out. You can even tell your tracker, 24 just came out. Is that right? Yep, she replaced 29. Okay, then we're good. So that's something you can watch yourself. It takes time to remember those things, but you can watch for those potential issues of people forgetting they're supposed to be going in and out.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't know how to explain that clearly because it happens a lot, and especially with the younger or the sub-varsity where they're not used to this yet. And maybe the coach is still trying to find that magic formula on how they want to work. They'll put in a serving specialist. That poor little number 2 only gets to serve, you know, type of thing. So that happens quite a bit. But yes, with the quite a few R2s turn around and say the libero went in, or the libero went in for 18. And it's not an entirely bad thing. I find it a little tedious if they do that well into the 4th set. But, you know, if that helps them to remember, I don't want to take them out of their game. So.
I agree. And, you know, and it's interesting, you start to be able to read the players and you can start to see them. And sometimes there are girls on the team that know a rotation, and then there's some that just completely lose it. They don't have any idea what rotations are. And I've seen it at all levels. And you'll have a girl that will kind of have this look, something's not right. Why is this not right? And if you see that as a scorer or a tracker, look at your sheet. Figure out what is going on. Why are they giving me funny looks? Something's not right. I have caught people at state with the wrong sub or the wrong rotation, whether it was the tracker or the libero going in for the wrong person. But even sometimes those girls, even a coach will look like, oh, I screwed up. Something's not right. So look at your paper, look at your sheet, figure it out. So.
It's one of those things where nobody's trying to catch somebody being a bad guy. We're not trying to be the policeman and, oh, you did something wrong. It's, no, we want it to go right. We just want it to go right. Whatever it takes to make it go right. If somebody thinks they're in the back row or in the front row, like on this section right here, you know that your back row is this person in the 5th and the 4th and the 3rd position because they've already served. This person hasn't served yet, so they must be in the front row. Okay, and so when later on down the line, when this person has 3 hash marks, you know, 3, 3, 3, 3, oh, the people with only 2 hash marks, oh, they must be in my front row. And that's what these little marks are for. And there are some referees who tell you to forget that. Oh, don't worry about that. And it's like, no, that's the most important thing. I really don't care about the rest of it. I really need to know that. So that we always have the libero in the back row. As you know, the libero can only play in the back row. And there have been times, even at the NC21 D1, NC2A D1 level, where the liberos got caught in the front row because they didn't go out when they were supposed to. Oops, it does happen. So that's the whole job. So sometimes you'll get the little girl who rolled her ankle in practice or something, and so she really doesn't want to be there anymore. She doesn't get to play. I just have to do this stupid libero tracking thing. And they have no interest in doing it at all, let alone doing it correctly. So kind of have to work with them and bring them along going, you're important, especially when you see one of these 23-2 type situations coming up and go, okay, this is your moment. This is what you're going to wait for. You're going to want number 2 to come back in for that libero, and then they can sub 23 into the front row. So if you see 23 coming without 2, go ahead and have a conniption fit. Tell your R2, no, 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 no. So that's one of the ways you can get that little girl interested in doing the job correctly. When it's not done correctly, I know of one match that was lost because the libero tracker put number 34 in for 23 instead. And so they didn't find anything wrong. And the libero never sat out a serve for the whole match. So the libero, when they're not going back to serve and they come in for that front row person, they have to sit out for at least one serve. Okay, they have to sit out for one play. And a timeout doesn't count as a play, so they can't call a timeout and then they go back out there. And that brings me to the next thing is during a timeout, the 6 players that are on the court, in this case, 41 and the libero are both out there for Sammamish, you want to make sure that at the end of the timeout, 41 and the libero are both going out there again. The same 6 that came off for the timeout need to be the same 6 that go on. Now, a lot of times it's the side out team that calls the timeout, or it's the team that lost the rally that calls the timeout. And so they may be running it on and off the court. And it's like, no, what happened last? So you'll want the middle and the libero to do the little dance, you know, because everybody has to be able to see that, no, the libero is going on now, or the libero is coming off now, because that's how it was before the timeout. So tell your R2, if it's just you and the R1 up there, that might be something you want to tell them between sets. I wouldn't make a big deal of it in the middle of a C match when it's just you and them type of stuff. But if the R1 sees it, she can call the captain over and say, make sure you got to do this way. And that's fine. And let them know that that's happening so that they don't get used to doing it that way. Well, I didn't have to do that before. So they learn to do it correctly. So I think the libero tracking is harder than keeping score because something doesn't happen at every serve. Whereas on the score sheet, something happens at every serve. So it's more important that you stay diligent, talk to each other, say the score, say number 32 is serving, whatever it is to stay engaged. Because you can get lost in a hurry. You'll end up with this person having 16 numbers and letters on their line, and this person only has 2. And it's like, did I miss something? It's like, no, they just subbed a lot. But then you'll know that. Okay.
I agree with Jenny. Make sure that as a tracker, you're communicating well with your scorer. If you have to call out the sub number while they're writing, do it that way so you're both on the same page. Because it really is. And especially when they do the 3-man switch, where the 2 middles are exchanging and the libero is going back to serve, you want to make sure you get those 2 numbers. But then she's doing, the score, everything else, and then checking who's serving right. So they do have a lot more. So the more we can help them, the better off both of you will be. So
my libero tracker basically narrate the match to me, and then she wasn't writing anything down. She was telling me what's going on out there. And then once everybody's in their place, she goes, okay, now what happened? So, it's one of those things where if you got subs on both sides and you got a libero coming in or 2 liberos, whatever it is, you are the scorekeeper. You can say, whoa, wait, let's do this over here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this all down, and then I'll get this over here. Okay, so you have the power to tell them, slow down, wait a second, because it needs to be correct. It doesn't have to be fast, but it does have to be correct. Okay.
Yeah, and as an R2, make sure that you recognize if you see that your scorer is going slow or struggling with getting numbers, you slow down too. You wait for them. And that don't go anywhere unless they've got everything recorded. And that's important that you guys stay as a team as you record subs and things like that. So that's really important. One thing I wrote notes down, something Jenny said too about the tracker is that make sure that if you see that maybe the libero is the captain, ask coach, if libero's on the floor, she's your captain, but if she comes off, who's the captain? You can have that conversation even before the match starts. So anything you see as an R2 that you look at the lineup sheet that will help you both, then that's a great way to have a conversation with the coach. So any questions for Jenny? No questions? Jenny, do you have anything else?
I had a couple of talking points and now I can't remember where they are. It's most important that you see the server. I think I said that because that is the most important. Make sure you bring pen and pencils, maybe white out if you're so inclined. Go ahead and download a score sheet and go through a game in your head. And if you happen to find one on TV, like Pac-12 Oregon, Pac-12 Washington, see the pace that they're going so that you can see how they're doing their subs. You're not going to see their subs so much, but you see the speed of the game. Or go watch a game. You know, maybe before your first match that you have to do, go watch a game and see how fast it goes to see how fast or slow you can go on that. Make sure your Libero tracker knows why they're doing what they're doing. Oh, and the communication with the R2. If you're in your fourth set, you may want to clue in the R2 that the team on the left has won 2 games and the team on the right has won 1, so that they know that we're going to set 5 or we're not going to set 5. I found many R2s forget who's won those games, because for us, it's just the team over here, the team over there, and then they switch sides, and we don't really pay attention to who's winning and who's losing so much. We pay attention to every ball. So if you can help them with that, you know, maybe the last time out of the game or the second time out somebody takes, you know, say, oh, it looks like we're going 5, or maybe we're not going 5. So that they don't get out their coin to flip a coin and everybody's just going away.
So I know we have some coaches here and some other officials and stuff. So I know that you've seen the score sheet, you know what they look like. Just know that as an official, when a coach asks you, I need my lineup change, you know, I need a lineup check. Just know yourself, you have to be able to read that score sheet also. And if you have to say to your scorer, who's my next server, and then maybe take it from there, because at the lower levels, they really do get lost. I mean, they're learning the game themselves. And honestly, even we have to look at ourselves also as teachers, especially that lower level, because in some school districts, they just grab a teacher saying, we need a coach, and the coach has no idea. So we are also teachers. So we need to help facilitate as much as we can at those lower levels. I don't have much patience for that at JV and varsity level. The C level, I have a little more patience for it. But when I get to certain schools and certain level, no, you should know what you're doing for the coach and the lineups and stuff. So, but for those younger kids, they're learning. We'll be patient with them and patient with coaches, because even they sometimes, you'll have a coach come up to you and say, I just started, I don't know how to write a lineup. So you kind of help them through it. So be patient as much as you can. So any other questions? Steve, do you have anything to add?
Sorry, gone for a couple minutes there. You'll notice patterns as you're doing it very often. I think, as I said to you guys last week, when Jenny's been my scorer, there's been a time when you say, you got that? And she says, I already had it when they were walking up. So some scorekeepers, they recognize the pattern of who's going to sub in at what time. and it's just already a done deal. And they'll catch things that you miss. So R2, when you're the R2, realize that the scorekeeper is your best friend. Well, one of your two best friends. And be patient with those kids that don't know what they're doing. Yeah, definitely just be as patient as you can. Most important thing especially in a C match, when you don't have somebody, is that the running score is right. And if they have no idea of how to do any of it, as long as that score up on the scoreboard, when you point your hand to the right or to the left, matches up with what you remember, then so be it. But once you get out into the main gym with the varsity scorekeeper, then we hope that we can do better than that. No, I don't have much else to add. Thank you, Jenny.
Jenny, do you have anything else?
Not really. I was just going to say there are some scorekeepers who kind of do things their own way. Just go with it. If you got the right score and the right person serving, we're pretty much happy. The rest is just details. So, yeah, if you've got somebody who, well, I always do this. I always draw circles. You know, I always do this. I always do squares. I never do that. It's like, okay.
The one thing
Unless,
that I
of course,
hear,
they're a 7-year-old kid.
Chris says, no place we can specifically and watch a match to practice scoring. Usually we have a score training, like a tournament, and we have you guys go and do score. This year is going to be up in the air. I can't say what we're going to be able to do with that, but in the fall, if we're back to normal, please cross our fingers. Our board runs a tournament, and then we have you guys score there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we would do for you guys. But right now, I don't know what to say. You could try and watch maybe some old high school, state tournaments or something. Go back and watch them and try scoring it yourself. You might be able to do that. So yeah.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kayla says, I did score in high school. My coach had me practice score with college matches. Yeah, you could do college matches too. Yep. You can pull up a college or a high school match and just do it offline. So sometimes you don't always get all the details of, maybe a sub or something like that. So it is a little bit harder, but it's good to be able to watch back and forth. I was going to say, so one thing that I hear a lot from scorers is that they like officials who are really flexible, because they're not perfect. We're not perfect. Coaches aren't perfect. Players aren't perfect. We are just all there really to just have a good night, as easy as we can make it. So if we are flexible in helping them, things will be much easier. Sometimes officials like to be very stickers on certain things. And they're, in some cases, is it really that important on certain things? Maybe not. But just learning to be flexible, help them and they're going to help you. And that makes your night so much better. It's just, you'll have a great time if you can just have a good relationship with your scorer. So, because they really do make your job easier. I loved working with Jenny. She's like the best. Last year at state, it was so fun. I'll say, Jenny, you got this. You got the sub. Oh yeah, it's gonna keep going. I'm like, okay, this is great. If you have a score that you don't have to turn around and give them a sub, man, that score gets kudos. You get dizzy. So, Steve Choi says, I have a video on my JV matches on YouTube. What's the channel, Steve? Can you put that up there so they can go and look? Or at least the title of the video.
So I actually have to I have to put it in sharing mode because it's on private. So I'll get that done and then email it to you, and you can email it to the rest of the.
Okay, email me, Steve, and Robin, and we'll send it to them. Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Okay, thanks, Steve. By the way, Steve, who is talking, he's the, you're a president, right, Steve? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, he's president of our organization right now, so. All right, any other questions that we have for tonight? No other questions? Any other comments or anything, or maybe things that we went over last week or the week before that you want to bring up or anything? Nope. Well, hey, this will be a record. We're done early. Yay.
That's because Jenny's here.
Jay, it was all for Jenny. You first, you remember? Oh, all right, you guys. So when is our next meeting?
General membership next week?
Yep,
Yep.
November 8th.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
next
week,
Sunday is our general meeting.
Yep. On the 8th, and then we have another training on the 15th, right? Am I right? The 15th? Okay. Yep, so the 8th, yes. So look for the link later on. It'll probably come from Mark for that. So, but anyway,
So the link for the 8th has already gone out. Did everybody get it? Okay. And then the link for the 15th, I'll send out closer to the 15th.
Take some cough syrup.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Jenny.
all right, you guys. Well, Jenny, thank you again so much for taking time this evening to be with us. So,
No problem.
Thank
Football
you.
game was boring.
Thanks, everyone.
all right, you guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
So I have something real quick, if one of you
Yes.
guys can stick around. I still haven't gotten an arbiter invite.
What?
Like I just looked a little bit ago
Then?
and
Okay. Kayla, do you have my cell phone number?
I think I do.
Okay. I'm gonna go when we're done here, because it's on my computer in my front room. I don't have access here.